Okay, so we'll be looking at the fundamental updates for this week. This is September 14th, 2025. If you've been following my updates, you know that I drop fundamental update for every single week. And what do? We first of all explain what happened last week, and then we'll get on to what is going to take place this week. By now, you all should know that fundamentals is like the bedrock in forex trading. Most traders lose money in the market because they are only using technicals. That is one of the reasons. You see, forex trading is not a game. It's what the Feds engage in. It's what the central bank engage in. It's what investors engage in. And if they are engaging on it, do you think they are going to be looking at only other blocks of fair value gap? No, they look at the economic strength. They look at the market team. They look at the things that will affect the currency itself. You understand? Because what you're trading are currency pairs. If a currency is increasing in value, you are making money. If a currency is reducing in value and you are in the right position, you are also making money. Do you understand? All you just need to do is understand the fundamental bedrock. What is happening in the economy? Because whatever affects an economy affects its currency value as well. Think about it. So let's go straight into it. What did we have last week? Well, as of last week, which was September 8th, right? I'll start from September 8th all the way to September 12th. Last week, I told you all Monday, Tuesday, we didn't have any news release. On Wednesday, we had the most important news release, which was called PPMI. Now, some of you will ask me, what is the meaning of all this news? I'll take my time to start, just summarize it for your understanding. Core PPMI just simply stands for Producer Price Index, right? This just simply tells you the amount of, goods and services that were sold by producers. Do you understand? So if the economy is doing well, producers will sell more. Do you get? If an economy is doing well, producers will sell more because why? Consumers are buying more. Just like you and I, right? If an economy is doing well, we are going to have more money to buy things. So producers will keep producing more goods and services to be sold. Do you understand? So now the number for this producer price index came out negative. What does this mean? It means that the economy is weak and inflation is dropping. Remember, I told you all that currently the market team is on monetary policy and the Fed are expecting to cut interest rates. What does this mean? It means that if they should cut interest rate due to the fact that inflation is dropping, dollar itself will be what? Bearish. Because inflation dropping signifies a weak economy. So our expectation on dollar is what? Bearish. And due to this, investors are already pricing in based on the rumor of expected rate cuts. I hope I broke that down in a very understandable way. So the next news I told you all that was going to be important was the one which came out on Thursday, which was core CPI. Now, at least this gave a huge volatility in the market, and I can tell you for a fact, most of the students in the academy, AceFX Academy, made a lot of profits from this. We made profit last week. Unlike, last month, which was August, which had low volatility, this month we are already bagging profits. Do you understand? The August low volatility was due to the fact that most investors were on summer break, summer holidays. Do you understand? So that is just simply what it means. For this month, September month is going to be a very, very volatile month. The volatility haven't even kicked in yet. It's coming and it's going to come in very strong. Possibly this week, because this week is a very, very important week, and I'll tell you why. So for last week, we had the core CPI, which was the inflation data itself, coming out neutral on the core CPI. Then the CPI month on month, which was the M/M, which is this one, it came out positive. But the CPI year on year came out neutral. Now, what does this mean? CPI is the inflation data, and the inflation data for month on month came out positive. And that was why you saw a little bit of bullish move in the upside for dollar, and all of a sudden dollar changed the direction to being bearish again. Why did this happen? This CPI inflation data is actually a short-term news. Now, a short-term news means that the market will react, but it will react for just that moment. Whatever the market team is, that is what the market will follow. I told you, there's a difference between a short-term news and the long-term news. A short-term news is one that will just affect the market for that 5 minutes it's being released. A long-term news is something that the investors are looking at, right? Something that it's going to affect the market in months to come. Do you get my point? NFP is the short-term news. CPI is the short-term news. You understand? Even PPMI is the short-term news. This PPI, right, that I talked about is the short-term news. So the short-term news came out on CPI and it came out positive. But the year-on-year came out neutral. And this year-on-year gave Feds more reasons to cut an interest rate. What does this year and this year on year slash year means, right? The Y slash Y. It just simply tells you the annual inflation rate. Do you understand? Annual means the whole year, calculated the whole year inflation rate, and it came out neutral. What does this mean? It means that inflation is still on the weak side because it's not positive, it's still on the weak side. So we are still looking at possibility for a rate cut. And if that rate cut happens, dollar will definitely be bearish. And now I explained to you all, for those of you who have my WhatsApp contact and have viewed my WhatsApp, I explained to you all why this is affecting stocks and gold. Gold is currently bullish. Why? Because they are expecting a rate cut on dollar. Stocks are currently bullish. Why? Because they are expecting a rate cut on dollar. We are going to look at that. You understand? Now, another news that came out was the unemployment claims. This simply tells you the amount of people who were employed, or will I say unemployed, for that particular month. And you can see the data came out, the actual came out higher than the forecast, which means a huge amount of people were, claiming to be unemployed. And this came out as red, which is bad for the economy, giving more room for the Fed to cut interest rates. I know this might sound confusing, and that is why we told you all that in case you're interested in learning more about this, right? Because this thing will be easy breeze for those who understand fundamentals. If you understand fundamental, I don't need to even be breaking this down for you. You understand. By the time I mention it, by the time you see the data, you understand it. And the only way you can understand fundamental is by going through our macro mastery class. We offer a 6 months training and a lifetime mentorship. And not only that, you'll be learning how to predict movement on gold, movement on dollar, movement on BTC, right? You'll be understanding the fundamental outlook on BTC. You know when BTC is going to rise in value and when it's going to drop in value. Imagine how much you can make with just that prediction. These are all the news I've traded so far using fundamentals. Look at the FOMC news, I traded this. Look at, a long-term news I traded on economic uncertainty. I gave this signal out to my students. We made up to like 2,400 pips on GBP JPY, right? This was NFP data release. I traded all this news based on rumors, based on market sentiment, and based on market team. You understand? This is what you will trade like once you understand the fundamental background. The honest truth is that fundamental actually changed the game for me. I can tell you for a fact, trading became very, very much easier once I understood what was happening in the economy. And we are giving this out at a discount. You would never learn fundamentals anywhere for 60,000 naira. You understand? If you want to look at it in dollar, you can also look at the price in dollar. It's actually going out for as little as $41. Do you understand? And the best part is that this discount is just limited. So in case you're interested, make sure to go through the link in the description of this YouTube video, or if you have my contact on WhatsApp, you can just simply text me up, right? So let's go back into the fundamental release. We are seeing the most important news that were released last week. Now, another one that was released, in which some of these news, they are important, but they don't move the market. You understand? But the Fed used the data to predict the long-term news. And in fundamentals, take note of this. If you're watching this video, take note of this. The long-term news is much more important than the short-term news. The short-term news give the results to the long-term news. For example, your NFP release is a short-term news. Your CPI is a short-term news. All these news that are short-term give you the results for the long-term news. So the Fed use all these results, all these CPI results, all this inflation data results to tell you, okay, what will happen next in the economy and how they are going to price in for what is going to happen next. Investors also use this data to trade the forex market. So the consumer sentiment, what does this mean? Consumer sentiment just simply means, are people in the economy feeling positive about the economy, or are they feeling negative about the economy? You can see the number came out negative, which was red, 55.4%, and the forecast was 58.2%, which means the consumers are feeling negative about the economy. This gives room for the expected rate cut. Do you understand? So this everything I just said here give you reasons why dollar is likely to be bearish. There could be other news that can affect the market, right? Because recently we are seeing a war on Ukraine and Russia. It's not really that deep yet, but once the news gets really intense, once the war gets really intense, sorry, we might see a change in direction because dollar is a safe haven currency. So dollar might be bullish, but I'm saying that is if that happens. But for now, all I'm telling you is that based on the data release, based on all this fundamental data release, dollar is likely to be bearish. Do you understand? So let's look at what we are having next week, and we're going to be looking at the chart analysis, right? So next week, or will I say this week, sorry, this week we are having bank holiday on JPY, Japanese yen. On Monday, volatility for JPY is going to be very low, but the market might still move, right? Because USD is paired to JPY, right? CAD is paired to JPY, so the market might still move. But based on JPY itself, bank holiday, the market volatility will be zero. Do you understand? The most important news for this week, let us go to the most important news for this week. Like I told you all, it's not all red folders that will affect the market. By now you should know that not all red folders that affect the market. You know, I know the first time you heard about fundamentals, I told you it's the red folders that you should be careful about. No, I will tell you the ones that you should be careful about, and the ones that will actually give you a spike in the market. The first one we have that is very important, that might give you a spike, would be the Fed fund rate, which is going to happen on Wednesday. This one, right? The one that I just marked, that is green. That one is a very important news. And what is this news all about? This news is the big rate cut that we have been talking about. The big rate cut that we have been saying, okay, this week the market team is all about monetary policy. This is the news that will give us that rate cut that we have been hoping for. So the rate cut is going to, the news, the Fed, they are going to announce the interest rate for, dollar on the 17th of September, on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Do you understand? So this will actually give you an effect in the market. And for a fact, due to the fact that this news is coming out on Wednesday, you might see a low volatility on Monday and Tuesday, but on Wednesday, you see a very high volatility. Possibility Monday and Tuesday might not be volatile, but I'm not saying that it cannot be volatile. It might not be volatile, but one thing I want to assure you this week is that due to the fact that they are going to cut interest rate, or they are going to hike interest rate, but possibility 90% reasons why they might actually cut interest rate, there will be huge volatility in the market, and we might see that big bearish move on dollar when this happens, right? When this happens. So another important news you should be looking at is the retail sales. I told you all about retail sales on my WhatsApp status. Retail sales is a long-term news. Now, this is one of the news in which investors pay attention to. What does retail sales stands for? Retail sales just simply tells you the amount of imports or exports that is coming in and going out of the economy. Every economy imports and exports something. Just like Nigeria, we export and import something as well. Do you understand? US export and import something. So if the export of a particular economy is higher than the import, the economy is doing well. Why? Because the economy is giving out more. So people are buying the product of that economy well. Do you understand? You see, the best part about macroeconomics, it will also teach you everything about economics. This is like a 4 years course in university. I'm actually serious. You're killing two birds with one stone, because if you go through the macroeconomics course, right, you will understand how things affect the economy, and you will now learn how to apply it to forex trading. Do you get my point? So let's go straight into it. This video is becoming a bit long. So the retail sales, we know that, okay, the export has to be higher than the import for the economy to be doing fine. If the import is higher than the export, this result will come out red, and it will signify that, okay, the economy is actually weak, giving more room for the rate cut that we're expecting on what? Wednesday. Do you understand? Our prediction now is that US economy is weak. So due to the fact that US economy is weak, inflation data is dropping. If inflation data is dropping, what are they going to do? They're going to cut interest rate. Why are they cutting interest rate? In order to stimulate the economy, in order to make people to borrow more from the bank. Why? Because the interest have been dropped. So people borrow more, people spend more to stimulate the economy to start doing well. So like chances is that if they cut this interest rate, you might see a very large bearish candle on dollar, but after that, dollar might now become positive, bullish. Why? Because Now people are buying, people are spending more due to the fact that they have cut interest rates already. But for the fact that there's already rumors about interest rates, investors are not going to put their money in dollar. Rather, they are putting their money in gold, and they're putting their money in what? In stocks. Do you understand? So I would have related this to BTC, but that's for those who are interested in BTC and crypto. If you want to know how to relate all these fundamentals to cryptocurrencies, you have to, understand it through our macro mastery class. Do you understand? So another important news in which would, affect the market is, oh my god, this is my favorite, the JPY BOJ policy rate. So this one is also rate cut on Japanese yen, and I told you all that Japan economy is doing perfectly great. Inflation is likely to rise, and they are looking at a rate hike. A rate hike means they are going to increase interest rates, and investors are going to be putting their money into JPY if that happens. Why? Because the economy is doing well, inflation is rising, and what are they doing? They are increasing the rate at which people are going to, borrow money from the bank. What does this mean? It means that people that are investing in the economy are going to have a higher return. I hope I'm not confusing anybody. So let's go into the chart analysis. I know that's what most of you are waiting for. All this babash I'm talking, it's not really important to some people. So let's go to this chart analysis and see what's happening. First of all, we look at dollar. Now, this is what dollar was doing throughout last week, just ranging in the daily time frame. I am a swing trader and a day trader, so I have no business with the range. Do you understand? All I want to see is a good entry to, short dollar on this bearish ride. Do you understand? That is just what I'm hoping for. And then what we are seeing is that this might actually happen this week due to the fact that we are expecting a rate cut this week. Do you understand? Dollar is still bearish. And when this rate cut happens, we might see dollar pick up from maybe this level over here. Dollar might pick up from that level, and you might now start seeing, some kind of bullish move to the upside. Possibility, but we are not analyzing that yet. Let us just focus on the one that is about to happen, which is the rate cut. Now, I told you all that this can change. Why? Because we are seeing a little bit of, war coming up on Russia and Ukraine again. Now, how will this affect the market? If this war should become intense, we might see a little bit of pump to the upside. But the war will not actually play out for too long, so this is not guaranteed to keep on pushing dollar up. It might just push dollar up a little bit, and maybe dollar will now keep on selling from there, but that is if the war becomes intense, which I doubt, right? So I will tell you what happened currently in the war, right? So the war was just simply all about Ukraine, destroying Russians largest oil supply. Now, what we are looking at is the oil chart. This is the oil chart, and you can see, due to the fact that Ukraine attacked Russia's largest oil supply, we could see a rise in oil price. Why? Because this affected the oil supply. Now, oil is directly linked to CAD, and if this thing affected oil supply, it means that oil supply went up, right? It means that people started demanding for oil. There was scarcity in oil, and then the demand increased, which means the price of oil went up a bit. But this was a short-term news release which just affected the market for that moment, and you can see a bearish candle kept on moving down. That just simply it. Let us go into JPY, Japanese yen, because we are expecting a rate cut too on Japanese yen. Now, for Japanese yen, I can tell you all that, okay, I am still expecting a bullish move from this zone. Market has just been ranging at this zone. Why? Because this zone, I would say, due to the fact that we saw low volatility in August, and we are still experiencing that low volatility because markets are waiting for rate cut and rate hike. So if they should hike interest rate in Japanese yen, which they might actually keep it on a steady, we might see a little bit of bullish rise on Japanese yen, right? It might be bullish in the long term. Do you understand? It will be bullish in the long term because markets have just been reacting in this zone. Japanese yen is seeming to be very, very positive because the economy is positive at the moment. But let's not, hope on that. The one we are hoping on is dollar. And if that should happen, we want to be seeing what? A bearish move on, a bearish move on USD CHF. What is my outlook on USD CHF? Well, I'm actually looking at this over here, USD CHF looks very good from this zone, and I was doing my analysis and I was looking for a good entry. But for a fact, I can tell you that this level is a level of a little bit of resistance, so the market might not be able to break it. So we might see a little bit of reaction here. If the rate cut should come out negative as predicted, we might see USD CHF drop massively. Why? Because dollar will be weak and CHF will obviously be stronger than dollar. That is my expectation on USD CHF. Euro USD still looks good. I can tell you for a fact Euro USD is looking better than ever. Why? Because if we're looking at the daily time frame, we can see that Euro USD have started reacting from this zone over here. I told you all that I want to see Euro USD break this level over here, and we can see Euro USD have broken this level over here, and in the daily time frame we might see a little bit of reaction, maybe a retracement might happen, and then we can see a pump to the upside if they actually cut interest rates and Fed fund interest rates come out negative. Dollar would surely be weak and euro will surely be strong, and that is it. I will be giving out signals to my students fully active in the signal channel, so we might be seeing, if I see a good entry, we're going to take it from that zone. You understand? So for AUD, I want to tell you all for a fact, AUD currently is actually seeing optimism. What does this mean? The economy is looking positive after the first rate cut they had. Remember, I told you all that if they cut interest rates, the economy might start doing well. So AUD, they were doing very bad before, right? Australian dollar was doing poorly before, but after the rate cut, we started seeing positivity in the economy. You can see AUD has been rising. Do you understand? This was the rate cut. This zone over here was the rate cut, and you can see the massive sell after they cut interest rates on AUD. That is the same thing that might happen to dollar. Then after the rate cut, you can see it ranged a bit, and all of a sudden it started looking bullish. From this zone it broke, and now we have seen a breakout. Now what am I waiting for? I'm just simply going to wait for the market to react back to this zone. I'll find my entry and I'll give the signals to my students and to the VIP signal channel. That is just simply it for AUD USD. Let's go over to gold, because most of you are waiting for me to drop an analysis on gold. Now, for a fact, I want to tell you all that I've started investing on gold, and what is gold investment all about? It's called swing trading. Now, not everyone can swing trade on gold, right? I actually did this with my large account, and I can tell you for a fact, I did it with, some of my team that are into fundamental too. We are trading based on fundamental when it comes to gold. Nothing technical, just fundamentals. Once we see the fundamentals, we find the nearest key level that the market will respect, and we take our trade from there. Where is the nearest key level if we are still looking for another buy on gold? We will be waiting for it to get here if we are looking for another buy, but we've already taken profit at this level, at this 3,547 level on gold. That's where we took our first profit, and we are hoping to see a good retracement. If gold can give us another good retracement, another good range at this level, maybe we can now see another buy to the upside, which might likely happen, or based on the fact that yes, rate cut is still about to happen, that might likely happen. But that retracement is very, very on, it's on a very low probability or very low possibility. Why? Because gold has already been spiking very high. Why is gold spiking high? Because investors are putting their money on gold. Investors are investing on gold. Why? Because USD economy is weak. Do you understand? Even stocks as well. Let's look at the S&P 500. Stocks are going high. Why? Because investors are putting their money on stocks and gold. Why? Because they're expecting dollar to be weak. And if dollar is weak, that is bad for the economy. Do you understand? So investors don't want to take their chances and leave their money on dollar. They're removing their money on dollar and they are putting it on stocks. And stocks will definitely keep rising because investors are putting their money there. Gold will definitely keep rising. I don't know what you all are seeing on the internet, people saying gold will sell. That's because they don't understand fundamentals. Gold will definitely keep rising. Let us look at more. The CAD JPY. CAD JPY was one of the most, currency pairs I was hoping for a sell on August, but I actually stopped hoping when I realized that the volatility was very low. But that sell is still going to kick in. But because if you're looking at this from the daily time frame, you can see that the bullish ride is already over. Market is already pricing in for a bearish rise, bearish dump, right? So if that should happen, we should see a little bit of sell to the downside from this zone. We can see that market cannot pass this zone again. That's impossible. If market should pass this zone, then it's back to being bullish. If market should pass this zone, it's back to being bullish. So that is just simply what I'm expecting on CAD JPY is sell as well. Euro AUD, like I said, AUD economy is looking positive. So due to the fact that they are looking positive, Euro AUD is looking bearish. Why? AUD is the what? Quoted currency. So due to the fact that AUD is quoted currency, in the daily time frame, AUD is looking very bearish. So if you are looking for a trade on AUD, I would suggest you should, look for it from this key level over here. If market should return back to this key level, then you can now start looking for an entry. You understand? This is the daily time frame, so no one should ever take a trade from the daily time frame. I'm just giving you, a simple outlook. You understand? The NZD-US. The NZD-US is another good trade I've been looking at. Very, very good. The market is looking positive on NZD, and due to the fact that we're expecting a rate cut, dollar is still looking what? Very much bearish, very much weak. So if dollar should be weak, I'm expecting a little bit of retracement back to this level, and then we can see a pump to this level over here. This is where I'll be taking my first take profit if that should happen, and I'll look for another level to keep riding NZD USD to the top. That is just simply it for this pair. For GBP JPY, I don't see why anybody should be trading this except for the scalpers, right? For the scalpers in the academy, sure, you can do that. For the scalpers that are watching this video, sure, you can do that. But for me, there's a day trader and also a swing trader. I don't see any reason why I should be engaging on a ranging market like this. That is just me being stupid. So that is simply it for the fundamental update for this week. Is there anything I'm missing out on? No, I'm sure I talked about a lot. So for those who understood everything, congrats. This week is going to be one of the best trading week of your life. For those who find some things confusing, make sure to text me up on WhatsApp in case you have my WhatsApp DM. If you don't have my WhatsApp DM, you can just go through my YouTube description, YouTube link. You will see my WhatsApp contact, my IG contact, everything is there. You understand? In case you're interested in also registering for the macroeconomics class, you go through the description in the YouTube channel and you also see that as well. So that is simply it for the fundamental update for this week. I hope you understood everything. I hope you took note of everything. If you don't understand, you can watch the video twice. It's here for you. You get, ask me your questions. With that being said, have a wonderful trading week ahead, and I will see you all next week.